And the water to your right.
In this episode of Bigfoot, Maria and Ronnie are still actively pursuing the mysterious creature near Alpine Lake in Alaska. Both have faced bizarre encounters so far, and they are sure that they are close to finding answers. Maria is watching the lake with a thermal camera when she sees something horrifying. She instantly calls the command center and warns Ronnie about what might be lurking around. While mapping the lake, Maria sees the thermal signature of a creature just lurking above the water. She keeps her eyes on the signature and calls Ronnie to warn him since he is 100 yards away. Suddenly, Maria loses focus for a moment, and when she looks back into the water, the creature has disappeared. Ronnie is not shocked by the report since he has heard a strange howling sound. Ronnie knows that the creature in the water might be evidence of what they have been looking for. He suspects that the creature is the Kushtaka, a legendary creature whose sightings have been reported far and wide by the locals. The Kushtaka was believed to be a creature that could control men's minds and possess them to do their bidding. Since the locals have spotted Kushtakas jumping on boats and walking in and out of the waters on the shorelines, Ronnie is positive that Maria's heat signature was one of the creatures. Maria cautions Ronnie to be careful since they have no idea where the creature is or what its intentions are. Elsewhere, Russell is investigating the shoreline, which is rumored to have plenty of strange occurrences. He continues investigating while following strange tracks believed to be the creatures. He sees several trees cut at weird angles, meaning that something very huge must have cut across the trees on its way. Russell finally makes it to a small clearing by the water. He finds large paw prints on the beach and speculates that they belong to an animal bigger than an ordinary wolf. He can see the shoreline very clearly, and he feels that this is the spot where everything needs to be set in place. The abundance of food by the shoreline makes Russell deduce that animals come by to feed and drink water. This means that predators are also around looking to hunt. Russell sets up his equipment, including thermal imagers. He knows that if anything moves on the shoreline, he will see a heat signature and trace the object. He is quite confident that this is the day when his work bears effort. The night passes by, but suddenly Russell hears a loud, startling sound. He looks into his phone and sees the signature of something moving by the shoreline. He cannot believe it, but further investigation proves that something is indeed lurking in the trees just behind the shoreline. Russell is around 200 yards from where he has seen the thermal signature, so he intends to make his way toward the location. He knows this might not be a good idea, but he is determined to find answers. On the way, he stumbles upon broken trees and suspects that was the noise he heard earlier. The following morning, Ronnie links up with Maria, and the two call Bryce to inform him of everything that they have found out. Maria mentions the strange white hair they had found hanging on a tree in the previous episode, and the thermal signature in the water. Bryce has heard of white Bigfoots, so he says that he will have the hair examined. Now, he has learned that the locals know of a place believed to hold cultural significance to Bigfoot. Bigfoots are believed to communicate using tree structures to pass messages or mark territories. Bryce wants Maria and Ronnie to head out to the suspected location, since it could help them gather more evidence regarding Bigfoot. Bryce believes that if the new location indeed holds cultural importance to Bigfoot, then there is a high chance that the team will unearth more answers in their hunt for Bigfoot. The two will be joined by Pete Kelsey, whose LiDAR technology had helped the team in the previous season capture a ghost of Bigfoot. The team quickly makes its way to the designated location where Kelsey will help map out the area better for them. The first thing they see is a huge upside-down tree. The tree is in line with another tree, making them deduce that they were placed by the same creature. Before they can make any more theories, Maria notices that the tree doesn't have any sign of human tampering. Kelsey says that his LiDAR technology will help them determine whether the upside-down tree has been tampered with. They all get down to business, and soon, Kelsey starts mapping the tree. He is also sending out a drone to map over 1,000 acres of land and see if anything stands out. To their horror and excitement, the team sees what appears to be a trail of upside-down trees. However, Kelsey warns them that he cannot for sure say that the trees are upside down since the LiDAR picks up dead trees. The only way to be sure is for Maria and Ronnie to see the trees themselves. Meanwhile, Russell is still walking toward the location where he had spotted a thermal signature the night before. He is careful in his walk as he wants to have the element of surprise. However, he is getting quite frustrated with his new cameraman. He knows that they have to work as a team in order to take care of each other and avoid spooking the creature. Russell hears a strange noise and asks his cameraman to stay close. However, Russell finds that the cameraman has fallen behind. He reprimands him, asking him to be careful as he should not be a liability in such a dangerous area. On the other hand, Bryce feels the need to dig deeper into the information Maria had given him regarding the shoreline. He seeks out a local who had a strange encounter on the lake that could possibly explain what Maria saw. Bryce is welcomed by the local, Doug, and after exchanging pleasantries, they get right down to business. The man explains that he and his family, along with other families, had been camping at the lake. They were having a wonderful time, and after eating s'mores, the kids slept, leaving the adults to continue chatting. A while later, Doug heard a low, guttural sound coming from the tree line. This was followed by stomping and then movements. It felt like something heavy was running toward the lake and it jumped in the water. No one ever saw the mysterious creature, but Doug could feel the hair on his neck stand a little bit. Doug continues to narrate how the creature would run up and down into the lake 3 times. However, what was strange was that it appeared as if the creature was not alone. Doug explains how he could hear 2 voices, as if 2 creatures were communicating. He believes that the high-pitched noise belonged to a female, while the lower one was a male. Doug says that the creatures raised their voices and then left. This information horrifies Bryce as he realizes that he must be dealing with a very intelligent creature. Doug confirms this and mentions that the area where they had their encounter is a hotbed of Bigfoot activity and weird things happen there. This scares Bryce, who has part of his team down in that area. He is worried about what might happen. He also knows that dealing with intelligent creatures is so dangerous since they can walk right into the creature's trap. An intelligent creature might prove more dangerous, and Bryce hopes that his team realizes what they are dealing with. As the night crawls in, Russell continues walking stealthily to avoid spooking the creature. At this point, he believes he is almost catching up with the creature. He finds fresh marks on the ground, observing how the soil appears to have been thrown around. Suddenly, a tree falls just a few meters from him. This scares him and his cameraman so much that they have to duck for cover. Once everything is calm, the ever-adventurous Russell runs toward the tree to examine it. He finds that the bark is still fresh, meaning that the tree has not fallen from being rotten. He continues examining the tree and discovers that the tree must have been pushed for it to have fallen in such a way. He looks up at the canopy and confirms that it is windless. This new discovery leaves him both excited at the prospect of making a new discovery and worried at what this new discovery entails. Elsewhere, Ronnie and Maria have split up so they can cover more ground in their hunt for the upside-down trees. The locals believe that the trees hold a significant cultural meaning to the creatures in the forest. Maria is walking toward 2 suspected targets, and she knows how important it is to be cautious, since this is a dangerous area. Ronnie will cover the 3rd location, and hopefully, the 2 will find what they need. Ronnie is making his way through the dense trees, hoping that with every step, he draws closer to the truth. Ronnie explains that such upside-down trees have been spotted in forests all over North America. However, it is still not evident how these trees came into existence. Kelsey had mentioned that there appeared to be no mechanical interference on the trees, meaning that humans did not interfere with the upside-down trees. However, Maria is not so convinced about this and intends to find out the upside-down tree's mystery. Maria knows that she cannot dismiss the fact that people could have planted those trees. She is determined to find out the truth. Soon, she spots the first tree and assumes that its position is what made it to be identified as an upside-down tree. Since this one is not upside down, Maria decides to move to the second one. Ronnie explains that the area they are in is believed by locals to be the Bigfoot area. The locals believe that Bigfoot or Kushtaka have a special part of the forest where they inhabit, so the locals stay away from such areas. Doug explains that in that area, so many strange things have happened, highlighting the need to be cautious. He gives a story of school kids who had gone camping out there. However, huge rocks were thrown at them, clearly insinuating that they weren't needed there. Doug ends his narration by asking Bryce and his team to be careful. He has heard stories that the Kushtaka are shapeshifters, and they take the form of people close to you. He asks Bryce not to follow anyone in the woods who isn't supposed to be there. Maria continues on to the next target, but she soon realizes that it's another dead end. The trees in the area form some sort of canopy that could be mistaken for an upside-down tree. Suddenly, she hears noises and feels as if something is moving in the woods. Maria looked around and found evidence that something had passed through the woods. She follows the tracks, watching with her thermal camera, but she doesn't pick any heat signature. Maria explains that her mind is on high alert not only for Bigfoot but for bears and wolves, as they are plenty in the forest. Similar to Maria, Ronnie isn't having much luck at his location. Suddenly, he turns around, and what he sees shocks him to his very core. There's an upside-down tree right before him. As he examines the tree, he concludes that they now have evidence of more than 2 upside-down trees, meaning that there probably is a pattern. He knows that this area might be a key component in giving them the answers that they've been looking for. He excitedly reports to Maria what he has just found. Back at the command center, Bryce finds that the results of the hair sample Maria had found are out. He explains that the lab responsible for conducting the DNA testing often works with the police department, so its results are accurate and reliable. The lab specializes in mitochondrial DNA, which tests the smaller DNA found in hairs and helps identify the animal species. Bryce calls the project manager, Gloria, to ask more about the results. She explains that the samples were good and the hair was white. The narrator explains how in 2015 there had been a Yeti expedition where various hairs had been analyzed and proven to be Yetis. Gloria explains how the testing works to Bryce. First, they check if the hair sample matches a human being, and then they proceed to other animal species. In this case, Gloria excitedly reports that they found no species on their vast database matching the hairs. There might be reasons for it, so they will continue testing the hair, but so far, no animal matches the hair. This is intriguing since Bryce feels that they are now close to finding what they've been looking for in Alaska. Back in the target area, Russell finally makes it to the location he had seen the creature in. He is very careful and walks slowly since he can feel that he is drawing closer to finding the creature. Ronnie looks around and sees a half-eaten skunk cabbage. Skunk cabbages are a type of vegetable with a bad smell, and it appears like the creature Russell had been following is fond of these. He notices that there are so many of the skunk cabbages around, and it appears as if something was just feeding on them. Russell wants to follow the food and see where that takes him. He believes that the creature they had been following was just at the location and it couldn't have gotten far. Sadly, the area is quite wet, so Russell cannot set down his materials and investigate with thermal cameras. However, he observes what appears to be handprints on the ground, explaining how it looks like something was trying to dig out a skunk cabbage. Suddenly, Russell hears flowing water and walks toward the sound, closely finding a small waterfall. Russell is excited as he explains that this place is perfect for Bigfoot. It has water and food and is secluded. Russell then spots a cave which heightens his curiosity. He has seen such a cave before, but this time he feels drawn to it. He feels that this would be a perfect hiding spot and suspects that the creature was hiding inside. Russell explains that if whatever they have been chasing all day and night is in the cave, he is about to have a meeting with it. He walks toward the cave, ignoring any sense of danger. That has been the episode Bigfoot Demon in the Dark. Thank you for watching. Remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel for such amazing mysteries. See you in the next video. After the discovery of what appears to be a massive handprint, Ronnie decided to leave Prince of Wales Island and join Russell and Maria at the location of the prints. They are all surprised to see the enormous size of the handprints, almost 3 times bigger than a human handprint. Maria then discovers something else. She shows them some knuckle prints. This makes them conclude that the Bigfoot usually walks on their 4s instead of 2s. During last year's expedition, the team had a forensic scientist recreate a possible Bigfoot skull based on eyewitness testimony. Maria observed that the skull appeared to have hybrid characteristics similar to those of both humans and apes. According to her, the Bigfoot would be able to walk bipedally but would also be able to spend time on its 4s. She thinks that the creature displays ape-like characteristics when it is using its hand and knuckles. Meanwhile, at the command center around 4:31 a.m., Bryce gets an email from the team. The team wants Bryce to look at the scans they have just emailed him. Bryce is thoroughly astonished to see 2 sets of handprints. Ronnie explains that here they are talking about multiple individuals. Bryce wonders whether they have a trajectory for where the creatures are heading. Maria explains that the area is so vast and the terrain is so difficult to explore, and it will take them a lot of time to trace the whole track. Positively, Maria thinks that the creatures are headed east along this river, and according to the maps, The river valley forms a bowl with cliffs on each side. Maria is hopeful that they can trap those creatures in that valley. Bryce suggests that they must find something that scans the area completely, and he might have the perfect piece of technology for that. That technology is used to search for and locate missing people. Bryce then asks the team to send the coordinates of the area where they found those handprints. Mountains with an elevation of 3,000 feet surround the 20,000-acre river valley on all sides. The team is split up to cover as much of this massive area as possible. They are hoping that Bryce's tech will give them a boost in their search. Bryce is driving to meet and coordinate with the drone team that should be arriving at the location. A tech expert named John McBride shows him a drone called the Autel Dragonfish. He explains that primarily they are doing overwatch, search and rescue, and any type of apprehension. Bryce states that this fixed-wing drone is equipped with 3 different types of cameras, a wide-angle lens giving them a complete overview of the search area, and a 20x optical zoom lens, which can determine the color of someone's hair from 800 feet in the air. And lastly, a thermal camera picks up any kind of heat signature. Bryce is confident that nothing can escape them now. As the drone takes its flight, Bryce continues that the thing that makes the drone so special is its ability to stay in the air and survey longer than any other drone. During forward flight, the fixed wing creates lift and conserves battery power. This can add an extra 2 hours per flight versus conventional drones. The drone also flies continuously in circles, searching for its target. This fixed-wing drone does not hover in place like a traditional multi-rotor drone. Instead, it tracks its targets by flying in a circular pattern overhead. This device not only gives them one eye from the sky, but also enables them to search larger areas with pinpoint accuracy. Bryce claims that this is the most sophisticated piece of technology they have ever used in their Bigfoot hunt. Bryce informs Maria that he is at the river, where it splits into 2. Maria informs him that they will keep heading towards the river. Bryce and the drone team have positioned themselves at the west end of the valley, where the rivers converge. From there, they will monitor the drone feed as Ronnie, Russell, and Maria continue their search near the banks of the 2 rivers. The drone team will remain until nightfall, as their ability to navigate the drone safely diminishes. John helps Bryce track down his team members, Russell and Maria, by using the drone. He then tracks down Ronnie and locks him in his target position. He informs Ronnie that they are hovering over 800 feet above him, so they can see Ronnie, but he cannot see them. And this means that the Bigfoot cannot see them as well. Russell and Maria are discussing the handprint, and Russell comments that he cannot think of anybody having a hand so enormous. Bryce and John keep on flying the drone and decide to go more upstream. It is then that Bryce spots something moving on the drone screen. They zoom in on the camera and find out that the thing is moving very fast, and within seconds, it vanishes. However, when they switch on the regular lens, nothing can be spotted. Bryce informs Maria that he caught something on the thermal lens of the drone, and it had a humanoid shape. He informs her that the thing is walking and is about a few miles up from where they are. Maria requests the path that the creatures follow. Bryce and John check out the path that heads along the river and find out that the river branches are winding towards the icy area up in the mountainous region. Bryce instructs Maria to head towards that glacier as fast as she can, along with Russell. Meanwhile, Ronnie is continuing to make his way up the other river. At around 8:35 a.m., Ronnie secretly whispers to Bryce that he can sense something large near the tree line. John then positions the drone towards Ronnie's location. Both John and Bryce excitedly point out a moving figure located on the thermal, exactly 200 yards up from Ronnie's current location. Alas, the creature disappears again. Bryce tells Ronnie that they are heading his way, and whatever it is, he must not approach it alone. Bryce makes a 1.5-mile trek upriver to help search the clearing where a humanoid thermal signature was just spotted. However, Russell decides to move from his position because he doesn't want to lose track of that mysterious being. Russell delves into the deep and dark tree line and finds another footprint and a freshly snapped tree branch on it. Soon, he catches up on Bryce and shows him the freshly discovered trail. As they step ahead, they are thankful for the ground to be covered in snow, as that can definitely help them trace the track of the Bigfoot. Suddenly, they are hit by an overwhelming smell and find blobs of pink snow along with the remains of a fresh kill. Bryce checks out a rib and remarks that it seems that an elk or a black-tailed deer has been killed. It is then that Ronnie finds a really large bone, And that makes a startling revelation that confirms Morea's speculation that early humans used to split bones and drink the bone marrow. Recently, scientists have hypothesized that human ancestors wouldn't just eat the meat of an animal, but would also consume marrow encased within the bones. The protein and fat-rich substance may have acted as catalysts in the development of humans' distinctively large and complex brains, thus spurring a major step in human evolution. Bryce remarks that, looking at that bloody massacre, it doesn't seem like normal animal predation. Last week, while investigating a believed underground Bigfoot shelter, Russell discovered shards of obsidian, also known as volcanic glass. Later, Bryce also found an obsidian in a nearby cave, along with the 10,000-year-old remains of a human ancestor. Bryce assumes that the Bigfoot might be using the obsidian as a cutting tool and may just be a type of early primitive human species. Bryce informs Morea and Russell about their latest findings, and Russell warns them to be on the lookout as there are many scavengers out there on the forest ground. Morea tells them to keep those large, split bones secure while they are still heading towards the glacier on the river. Meanwhile, Bryce and Ronnie still check out the area of the massacre and do not find any drag lines like they usually make while pulling their catch into the forest. So Ronnie guesses that the creature just put it on top of its shoulder and ran off. Out of the blue, they hear an ominous rustling sound from the leaves. They decide to turn on their thermals for a better look and decide to follow a certain track. They rummage through the forest, only to find that the sun is already up, and if that thing is nocturnal, they only have 45 minutes or so until daylight fully breaks in. After hiking all night with only a short rest, Russell and Morea manage to reach the ice field at the termination of the river. Until now, they haven't been able to make a breakthrough discovery. Morea knows that there is something out there, as confirmed by Bryce and the fixed-wing drone, so they have to change their direction. It is then that Russell suddenly spots a figure on top of a ridge, just kind of dropping over the horizon. The cameraman confirms that he also spotted something that was walking on its twos and then suddenly ducked down. Morea has an idea that Glacier has deep crevices that humans sparsely explore, so that might be the perfect place for a Bigfoot to hide. Meanwhile, Bryce and Ronnie are still looking into the forest. It is then that Ronnie spots a claw mark on a tree and excitedly calls upon Bryce to check out his fresh finding. Now that can be the claw mark of a bear, but Ronnie is pretty much positive that it isn't because bears usually leave parallel lines. Ronnie is certain that whatever carved those lines looks to be really strong, big, and incredibly tall. Bryce remembers a witness telling him that bears usually make scratching sounds with their claws, but that thing usually claws out, making a sound as the whole trailer has gone wild. Soon they hit a trail with visible tracks, and Bryce feels that they are closer to their major discovery. However, to their dismay, there is nothing but a rocky clearing by the river stream with no tracks. Bryce hopes Russell and Morea have better luck than them. In pursuit of whatever they spotted on top of the ridgeline, Russell and Morea completed a dangerous climb to the top of the glacier. Russell is worried that if that creature escaped into the interior, they would never be able to find it. Morea shivers due to the freezing cold and remarks that it can be a brutal environment for any animal to live in. A glacier doesn't really seem to be an area for a large primate to survive. But if it is being used as a conduit to another place or as a hiding place, then that can be a possibility. Russell knows that locating the tracks will be a toil on that slippery Alaskan snow. Russell and Morea decide to stick to the path of the water stream, as most animals will follow those waterways, and Lucille is certain that the Bigfoot will be doing the same. The duo spots an ice cave, and Morea comments that it can be a shelter or a hiding place for the creature. They both decide to hit the cave precariously. Morea knows that a glacier is always in motion, and an ice cave like this can form quickly and go on for miles. They have no idea when it was formed and how stable that is, but at this moment, that is the only place an animal would run to from the position that it was spotted. They also find a fresh stream of water, and Russell comments that it is a huge find, because if an animal wants to survive in this kind of environment, it would try to find a shelter like that cave, which also acts as an escape route. The amount of running water in this cave will match the sound of anything coming through here, as well as erase any footprints or anything left behind. Still, they are unable to find any tracks, but they keep on moving. Later, the cave opens to a vast clearing, and Morea predicts that the creature is going to keep moving south, where they are going to get more darkness. Here, they are talking about a mountainous landscape 3 times the size of Texas, so their chances of getting something on foot are non-existent. The team, with the help of the producers, negotiated with a Juneau-based company to acquire access to a helicopter. The team's goal is to reach the creature before it reaches the great expanse of the interior. Russell comments that once they are out of the snowfield and under the dense forest, they have lost their chance. Maria remarks that the bright snow is the perfect contrast, and anything walking on it will stick out like a sore thumb. Soon they spot the interior, and with much disappointment, they are unable to see anything worthwhile. Maria comments that the way science works is that you test, retest, and learn from your mistakes and past failures. According to her, with every failure comes the ability to really build on that, so that the next time they are out, they already have a solid base. With this expedition, they are not coming out empty-handed. 3 weeks later, the team has gone home while Bryce is taking a second look at their findings on the field. He remembers Maria and Russell leaving some really sensitive microphones outdoors, and those really picked up sounds all the time they were out in the wild. He listens to those recordings again and again and finds some indistinct humanoid voices, as if the Bigfoots are talking. Bryce insists that these recordings were taken in the middle of the night, the entire time they were out in that area, and they didn't come across any other souls. So he doubts whether the voices belong to some hunter or hiker. To confirm his allegations, he consults Dr. Ronald Cosper. If you are enjoying it so far, make sure to subscribe to the channel. After gaining his master's in linguistics from Cornell University, Dr. Ronald Cosper built a career out of studying rare and complex languages. In 2018, he published a study based on the notorious case of Albert Ostman, a Canadian prospector who was allegedly kidnapped and held captive by Bigfoot for days. Based on the testimony of Ostman, Cosper believes he has translated several words spoken by the beasts. Bryce has already given Cosper his analysis, and the latter confirms that the voice recordings definitely sounded hominid or near human to him. Bryce inquires whether Cosper was able to decipher any possible words coming out of the Bigfoot's mouth. Cosper replies that he certainly was able to figure out waves, flat, and kumba. However, the amount of noise and distance have to be kept in consideration. Cosper then makes the startling revelation that there were 2 Bigfoots instead of 1. The words flat and waves were said by one individual, while kuma was said by another individual. Cosper's deciphering actually matches the findings of the team, because they also found multiple hand and footprints while on a search trail. Bryce then asks Cosper whether Bigfoots are capable of language, and the latter replies that Yowies, who are the Australian version of Bigfoots, do converse in a peculiar language when in a group. Soon the team is walking away from Alaska with possible audio evidence, screams and howls, and 3D scans of footprints and handprints. This means that their work has just begun.